First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. So I need a motion to review minutes. Kevin, John, barely beat that. Any comments, changes, edits, anything to the minutes from the last meeting? All right, we need a motion to approve the minutes. Motion to approve. Kevin, Zach, minutes are approved. All right, that brings us to Angelina, your update.
Yes, obviously being September and the September board meeting, we can start talking about the opening of school, and I'll leave the specific details to our building administrators, but I think we had a really great opening to school, particularly given the construction, some of the things that were a little unusual and some of the changes that we had. So I'll let them speak about that. I do want to give you a brief update on staffing. We were fortunate to be able to find someone to cover our special education needs at the elementary school. However, we still will be continuously recruiting for a less than full-time position, and we're still sorting that out. And I'm thankful to have Miss Fremont, who has actually officially joined us effective Monday. So I'm very, very thankful. And she's taking a look at some of our new transfers that came in from other schools that have different IEPs and working through those and making sure that the assignments match and if we have to provide any support. I anticipate hiring at least one aide, which there's some interviews today that took place. So we'll probably have that on the next agenda. And that's for a new transfer student as well. One other item under staffing will be for technology. Technology is one of the high need certification areas, and there's only, to my knowledge, I think there's only one school in New York State that actually produces technology teachers, so they're kind of few and far between. So right now we're looking at an alternate pathway for someone that has an interesting background that aligns with that. And we are, Mrs. Lanu and I are working on having that person come in for a tour. They interviewed with us last week, have a master's degree and some interesting skills in computers. So some different type of technology, because there's a broad range from woodworking all the way to building a computer. And then we'll work, if they are the successful candidate, with our certification officer to get them certified. I share that because long are the days where everybody just comes fully certified and ready to go. And I think you have to find the best person and work with them with their particular skill set to get that in there. He had a series of life experiences that I think will help him towards some of the transitional certifications. Our construction project, if you've come on campus or walked down the hallway, you can see we're still working through the construction project. The substantial part of the project is still on target. Actually, in some cases, we're actually ahead. The roofing at the elementary school is almost done, and I believe they've quoted us that they should be done and out of here by next Friday, which is good. They're just finishing up some of the finishing work on the roof. That actually went exceptionally well. The front office is actually been delayed. That's probably one of the main things with the project that's been a little delayed. There's a couple reasons why they're a little delayed, but one of them is they ordered the wrong lights. And because they ordered the wrong lights, we didn't want them to install them and then do it again. So we're just waiting. Mrs. Lanu and Miss Norton have been beyond kind and working kind of at any spot that they can find instead of having an office so that they can finish up the office correctly. But we're hoping that in the next little bit, we'll be at least able to move them into that and have the wiring and all that done. So the space is finished, just not the wiring and the data and all the things that need to happen. The Secure Edition, you can see that they've started to pour the pad for the Secure Edition, and that is where, based on the recommendation from our architects and even Deputy Loper, our guests will enter in through the secure vestibule before they can ever get into our school. So right now they actually have to come into our school before they can have a transaction with someone that works here. But once that part is built, they'll actually be able to go right in there and they'll interact with someone and they can be locked down in that particular space. So we're hoping that that's done late fall. And you can see that once they start building the frame for it, it'll go pretty quickly, but they've been spending their resources finishing the other areas of the buildings. Communication, as you know, one of the draft goals of the board is always improving on communication. And I've sent out some things to the communication subcommittee about what, if any, products or personnel support can help with some of the communication strategies. And all those things have a cost associated with them. So I think we could probably buy a lot of things. But right now they're going to look through and say, what if we're going to spend some financial resources, are they the most efficient and do they make the most sense? Most specifically, the product that we use to run our website and our app have a myriad of different tools that we can use to do communication with parents and things like that, but they're quite costly. So there's something that we continue to investigate and look at, but that's something that's on their radar. Also upcoming is the HVCC guarantee. You may remember last year we were the first school in Rensselaer County to invite Hudson Valley into our school and do a big splash. They'll be in next week and doing that kickoff. And again, it's the Hudson Valley Guarantee is a way that Hudson Valley partners with us to make sure every one of Tamarack students has something to do, should they want to do that through Hudson Valley. Doesn't mean necessarily they'll get into the program that they may want, but what they will do is they'll tell them what they may need to do if they want to work in there. That could be a certificate program. That could be a 2-2 program with RPI. It could be a myriad of different things. Hudson Valley's been a really great partner and they're wonderful. And what I really like about it now is they explain to the students about what a good experience they can have while they're there. And they're making it very much like the presentations that they were seeing from some of the other expensive colleges to really normalize that to make it a good choice for our kids, which is great. Another thing I just want to share is impact testing. This year, we're back to doing impact concussion testing for all students, which means that we'll have a baseline whether or not they're an athlete or not. So if a child, per se, were to get into a car accident, we would be able to provide their physician a baseline that they did with an uninjured brain prior to just standard testing. So if they get hurt with us, we have that as a baseline. But if they get hurt offside, we would have it. And we had one of our students come in at the beginning of this year with a traumatic brain injury that happened over the summer, which would have been really helpful. So Mrs. Lanew's experience as a former athletic director, she was able to do that. So she was able to shepherd that along, which is great. And then one last thing I just wanted to bring to the board's attention before we start our budget process, which is STEM high school. You may remember last year we made a very strategic decision to allow the students that are currently in STEM high school to continue on their 4-year pathway, but not to open up any new slots. You're going to start to see a lot of recruitment for programs like these, and I just want to reaffirm that the board is committed to not participating in that. That's not CTE and New Visions. Those are different. This would be STEM high school and Tech Valley High School, which are separate 4-year programs. And if that's the case, if anybody inquires with their school counselor, et cetera, we will just say that unfortunately, due to budgetary constraints, Tamarack is not participating. What I don't want to have happen is kids to apply, kids to get in, and then tell them no. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's a good look. So
just looking to our new board members for any thoughts or concerns with that. It is, we have unlimited budget. We would certainly not have to do this, but we don't have unlimited budget. So any concerns, any more information?
I mean, how many kids have gone there in the past from here?
I think we had Tech Valley's different because that's been open since like the 2000s. So that would be a whole bunch. And I think we have 1 or 2 students left. STEM, there might be 5, but they're probably juniors and seniors. We allowed like 2 kids per year. The challenge with those programs are they're 4-year. So it's not like a one-off where they go once. It's a commitment for a full 4 years. And it could be upwards to $60,000 over the course of 4 years. So
are they recruiting directly to the students?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so
You'll
that's
see a
why
lot
you
of it
feel-
Well, you'll see a lot of it on social media because the programs are really great. And they'll say, hey, students, in this caption, tell your parents and come to this workshop. I just wanted to be really clear with them that that's not something that we participate because I don't want hurt feelings or you to be solicited if that's not the intention of this board.
I will say, I still think it's the right thing to do. We had to make some tough cuts last year, so I think we need to be consistent.
No, I agree. And, to echo a point that Angelina has brought up before, it really is a shame that our kids can't do the same thing that other kids can do just because of where we're located, and how the aid formula is set up. But I agree that we don't have the finances for that especially based on last year's budget.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. So next up is our administrators. So we're going to start with most senior to not. Kelly?
Good evening, everyone. I'll try to be relatively brief, which is good because that means
things are kind of chugging along as I'd expect them to be at this point in the year. We're off to a great start. I feel like in many ways, this might be the smoothest start that I've experienced as a.
Don't say that.
I know, well, the honeymoon is over. We're starting to realize this week things are brewing and popping up, but it hasn't been anything we can't handle. Construction really has kind of chugged along and everyone's been very flexible and accommodating, and our lead contractor is always very responsive to any needs or concerns that we have, so it's very appreciated. We're in full swing with our safety drills, taking advantage of the nice weather for evacuation drills. Our fall bus drill with students all went very smoothly. We even had to make some adjustments to our evacuation routes in the elementary building due to the construction. Kind of, a little bit last minute, and everyone did fabulously with that. So in terms of just safety planning, we're off to a good start. Deputy Loper and I and the secondary administrators are working to come up with a schedule for our lockdown drills, which will be happening later on throughout the year as well. We're looking forward to some fun things next week. Our Welcome Back picnic is still on the schedule for September 23rd. Thanks very much to the PTSA. We've had to do some pivoting and adjusting due to the construction just to make sure we have a safe environment where everyone can gather, but that it'll, meet everyone's needs and accommodate everyone. We look forward to any and all of you joining us on September 23rd for our elementary Welcome Back picnic. Later that week, on Thursday, we'll be having our Meet the Teachers Night, September 25th. And in terms of curriculum and instruction, no major changes, but as I mentioned last year, we are starting to roll out a couple of programs to pilot for math in certain classrooms because we do anticipate having to select a new program to implement our math curriculum starting next year. So I'll have some updates and feedback as we go through the pilot process moving forward. And also, I did want to mention our librarian, Deanna Wetmore, kind of approached me with some creative scheduling for the library to accommodate some more time to do teaching and research lessons with classrooms. So that's kind of being tried out this year. That should be hopefully a welcome and exciting supplement to the instruction that's already going on in our K-5 classrooms. So that's it.
Secondary team?
Next time I choose not to go after Kelly, I would like to request first. We've had a wonderful start to the school year. And I've heard it from several teachers and staff members that it was a really good start, smooth. The students came back and it was great to see them fill our hallways again. And like Ms. Honorato said, that it was, and I knocked on veneer here, but that it was a smooth start to the school year, and it was just a really great vibe in the building that everyone's back and everyone's ready to get back to work this year. We obviously had a new lift that we were doing with the cell phone law and policy that are put in place, and I'm happy to say that it's been going very well. We've heard from both staff and students that it's going well, and I think that our student board representative is going to speak to that a little bit when she has her opportunity. But we've had some kids reach that first checkpoint of, hey, you're not supposed to have that, but it's been good and healthy exchanges and very respectful, and it's a learning process and a learning curve for all of us, and so I think that it's going very well. Our counseling center has been kicking off like college week for our students, and we've started having college visits from representatives from colleges around the area, and they've had the opportunity to meet with them and learn more about their colleges and what they have to offer. So that has been wonderful. On my weekly newsletter, I am going to make it a point to have a section dedicated to our counseling center and what they have coming up so that parents and families are aware of any sort of tests that are coming up or scholarship deadlines, Common App deadlines that will be coming up. So I'll have just a section there. So just to keep everyone updated and have it on their minds that those events are coming up. I know that they're starting their senior meetings with students next week, I believe, and they'll be able to help students make sure that they're on track for all of their goals this year without any stress on their parts. We've had the opportunity to start up our meetings in our buildings, our student support team meetings, DLT, our safety committee meeting, and also our team meetings. Both Ms. Norton and I have had the chance to attend those meetings, and I can see us making real progress already with those committees. I have also had the privilege of just being in classrooms with our teachers and getting to experience the lessons that they're teaching our students, and getting to see how they are just so passionate about their subjects. And that's been a real treat for me that I've been able to sneak that in whenever I can, because that's really what it's all about, is getting to see them and the connections they make with their students. And that's been wonderful. I've also had the chance to attend several sporting events and get to see our student athletes out there representing our school. And for me, that's very nice because, again, as a former athletic director and former coach, I've always found that getting to see students in their element, doing something that they really enjoy and they feel confident when they're doing it, it helps strengthen my relationship with them and my understanding of them as kids and like whole human beings, so that's been wonderful. To that point, homecoming is coming up in October, and we know that our field isn't going to be able to host that, so the homecoming game is going to take place in Hoosick Falls. But Dr. Maloney has been really generous and supportive with us supplying a spectator bus to our students so that they can have a safe way to go and support our team for the homecoming game. And we're hoping to, fill up at least one bus, and if we need a second one, we can make that happen too. So we can have our student section be really strong that night and support our players and our cheerleaders. The first week of school, our 8th grade team put on a back to school assembly for our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And I don't know if any of you got to watch any of the live stream of that ridiculousness, but it was so much fun. They did minute to win it games, and Ms. Norton and I both got to take part in that. And the 7th and 8th, or 6th, 7th, and 8th grade team members took part in those games and along with our counseling staff. And it was just so much fun. And the kids had a blast, and then they got to cap the afternoon off with a Kona ice truck. So they had a great day and a great welcome back to school. We have middle school dance next week on Friday. So that's, it's probably going to look exactly what we think a middle school dance is going to look like, but it's going to be a blast for the kids. And we're just looking forward to that. And, the year's been off to a great start. And I think, I can speak for all of us that, we're excited to see where the year takes us.
You're literally 4 days in. Do you have anything that you'd like to offer?
Just excited to finally be here, and just to dive in and get to know our students' needs and how I can support them and our teachers and the community, and learn as much as I can. So short and sweet, but that's really how I feel. Excited to be here.
And I'm going to ask Mrs. Norton to join me up here. So we have a tiny little presentation tonight, if everybody wants to take a look. And just going over some items for student discipline and some of the procedures and things that we have in place. And since Mrs. Norton is the one that deals with the bulk of our student population, in conjunction with our other principals, I thought that we would
Absolutely.
have you talk about that. So first of all, not all behaviors are bad behaviors that occur in a school, but the ones that are challenging are certainly challenging, and our school is not immune to it. As we've seen for the last couple years, some of the behaviors are having to do a lot with communication and maybe throwing, I'll use a term at the elementary school, a fit, because they don't have the words to be able to communicate whatever it is that's bothering them. And there's certain behaviors that we can try to talk through and certain behaviors that we have to do some different items. Take a different approach, I should say. Okay. One word that often comes up, and I'm going to ask you to kind of speak to this a little bit, is the idea of bullying. And often bullying is thrown around quite a bit. And I don't think our district or our schools are immune from that in any way, shape, or form. But not all mean things are necessarily bullying, but bullying is treated a very specific way. So what I have on the screen for you is the definition of bullying. Bullying is unwanted aggressive behavior involving a real or perceived power imbalance repeated over time. Key elements include intent to harm and repetition. And then obviously it goes into what direct bullying is and what indirect bullying are. And indirect bullying is really hard. That is really where when one person puts their hands on another, you can see it, you can talk through it. It's the things that occur outside of our eyes, which become really, really challenging. Did you want to add anything to that?
I would say that without moving too far into your PowerPoint presentation, the most important thing that we need to do with bullying is to report things. And that's when Dr. Maloney is talking about the parts that are a little bit more difficult. Sometimes people may not realize that what they're seeing is bullying. So it's very important to pull in all different perspectives from different people, different students, what they're seeing, different teachers. So once something is reported, then it's on our radar and then we can move forward through the process.
So actually that kind of lands into this. So do you want to just kind of anecdotally talk, if you got a report from a parent or a student about perceived or real bullying, how would you
I
handle
do,
it?
absolutely. So I'm just gonna not even go off of the PowerPoint right now. Okay, so as lovely as this, I did look through it, it's beautiful. So I'm very proud of the way that we handle discipline in our secondary school. It's multi-leveled, so when something is reported, then we try to support the students the best that we can. And that could be team leaders if they're in 6th through 9th grade. That could be teachers. That includes school counselors, school psychologists if we need that. And we look to support the students emotionally and connect with them. Then we look at what has happened, get some data, we can look at the cameras, we investigate things and really hear from all people that are involved in the student's life. And then we start looking at consequences. And thankfully, years ago, there was a committee that created a court policy. So we have that right on our website. There is a handbook for the secondary school that goes through that. So it's very clear cut. When something is done, then this consequence happens. Where it gets a little bit flexible is when you start to pull in extra information. So using that information to see if things have escalated, if there was an issue before, and then building on that. But we would never go straight to the most serious offense for something that is a minor infraction. We want to make sure that all of our students feel safe and comfortable and happy to learn. What we want to do is do that for all of our students. So whether this is a student that is being bullied or someone that is noticing something and that makes them uncomfortable, but it's more than just bullying. It is behaviors that might need a little correction that no one has done before. It could be minor things. It could be someone that doesn't feel included, so they're acting out. So we really have to go through everything. It's a long process, but I'm very proud of the way that we handle that. When we get a report of something that is more bullying centered, we use our DASA procedure, so Dignity for All Students, which was created to protect different classifications of people. So that could be physical appearance, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, gender. Thank you. So at the beginning of each year, we had our secondary school meetings with our students. We make sure that everyone understands what DASA is and how important it is. And when students come in, because they're there for a possible infraction of DASA, we look at what's happened and how we build upon that. So it's a long, lengthy procedure, but it's something in place. This isn't something that we just create. There's a procedure in place.
So picking up on Mrs. Norton, is the elementary school any different, or would you add anything to what she said?
No, it's the same, and DASA is really, that's a process that's defined in some way, for all, New York State Public Schools K through 12. The one thing we don't have in the elementary building is a board policy. That's secondary specific, but both buildings have a code of conduct where if any discipline is warranted after an investigation of possible bullying, we do have kind of a progression of consequences that we would follow in those situations. And one thing I just want to add, sometimes when we get a report and it's taken through this thorough investigation process by a trained investigator, in our building it's our school social worker, working in conjunction with me. Sometimes we determine that there is a material incident of bullying that meets the definition of bullying. Sometimes we find out no, but this is still a problem. So it doesn't mean we don't address it in other ways through discipline, parent conferences, things like that. So sometimes, whether or not it's a problem is determined in actuality to be bullying. I just want to put it out there that if it's a problem, bullying or not, we have ways to address that.
So the last thing I want to offer before anybody has any questions is we do have some key supports in the building. We have school counselors. We have 3 in the secondary school. We have 1 at the elementary school. We have 3 school psychologists, and we have a social worker. So those are people that take care of mental health support, crisis intervention. As Kelly had mentioned, some of them are our DASA coordinators. For the secondary school, Brianna is the DASA coordinator. And if there's ever a conflict of interest, for example, it's something she's already been investigating, we will lean upon the person in the elementary school and vice versa. So we have ways to work through that. We also have our principals, right? They're a great resource. If they don't have the skill or the ability to take care of whatever the problem that's presented, they would go ahead and seek additional support in that way. And then lastly, our DASA coordinators. So DASA, or the DAC, is one person that's responsible for this process, the Dignity for All students, and that's throughout New York State.
I think the most important thing when we talk about bullying is that people don't always report something. So as soon as something is reported, we can deal with it. We can help that. But sometimes students don't want to be snitches, or parents are nervous to report something that their student is going to be retaliated on. But we need to know so we can help the kids, right? That's the most important part. No one should be bullied. No one should feel unsafe in school or outside of school.
And I would just further add, one person I didn't mention on the sheet is we're fortunate to have an SRO, and Kyle plays an important part of this process as well. The administrators, unless it's incredibly minor, kindergarten looking funny at another kindergartner, they always involve him and make him aware. And sometimes they'll say, yeah, sorry. Sometimes he might be involved in some of the restorative processes. He's been receiving special training as well to know the difference between what is a criminal act and what are things that you're a part of to be here as coaching. The vast majority of his work is not writing police reports. It's doing that coaching. Do you want to add anything to that, or?
No, you pretty much did. I try to just educate them when they're doing something wrong. Trying to be like the mean officer and just trying to educate them. Tell them in the real world what it can turn out to be, especially at the high school age.
Angelina, can you just share a little bit more about if I'm the parent of a student that's been impacted, or maybe I'm the parent of a classmate that is aware of a situation, what kind of information can be shared or not shared?
So if your student is directly impacted, you would be entitled to certain information. If your student is not involved, you would not be entitled to any information that's private to that individual student. That's a really difficult thing because people want information. We want to be able to give it. But if that was your child, we wouldn't just randomly speak to another parent about your particular child. And that's often hard, especially about consequences. People want to know what consequences a child got. And, what we can share with them is that the process was followed, but I can't speak to anything beyond that. And I think that's really frustrating for some people. I know our administrators get, people that are frustrated. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I would add one thing, that if there was a situation that was uncovered through the DASA process, and Justin and
Thank you.
that really, was bullying and it carried some significance, right? A certain level of concern. There would be some type of safety planning involved in that process as it relates to the target student. So certainly the parent would have some information of clear information about those action steps as it pertains to like the perpetrating student of where, you know, there might be actions taken to make sure that student feels safe. But that is a little bit different than going into like the disciplinary record of a student of concern.
So I'm looking at Mrs. Norton because one thing that we do a lot at the secondary school is the kids will actually sign an agreement. Like they'll agree to stay away from the child that maybe they're having some issues with. And I think that's been pretty.
School grounds, that includes sporting events, buses, bus stops, social media can be incorporated into that as well. And we take that really serious. If a student has to have a stay away agreement from another student, there were many steps that happened before that. So we enforce it. It's very important that the parents understand, families understand, and the student understands that at this point, that there are serious steps.
And to Mrs. Norton's point, which I strongly agree with, when you said, probably one of the challenges is having the courage to come forward. Is there an avenue for confidential, like kind of a hotline type of thing, or some way that maybe it could be reported without actually identifying?
I think that one of the things that we have become very good at in this role, again, you can speak it if you want, but we have camera access. We have adults in the building, so when things are reported, we can find other people that were in the area so that the student that reported the incident doesn't feel that everyone is going to know who made the report. So we try to keep it as anonymous as we can. So we have incident reports that students can fill out. They can go to the counseling office, to the main office, really anywhere in the building. And the student can write down and report any incident, who else was around, and then they'll speak to a counselor, they'll speak to one of us, and then we move through those steps as well.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't think we get as much anonymous at the elementary school.
I think sometimes the anonymous reporting would be a little challenging for some of our population because, writing and spelling and things, like if there was a more electronic way to do it, it might be a little harder for them. But yeah, at the end of the day, we have ways where we take clear steps to have this not come back to, a student or even another parent or staff person that maybe reported something.
We do have a section on our website that I want to point out, and we're always open to other ideas. But we have resources on here under our parent resources. So it's bullying prevention resources, who to contact, online resources, books and articles, programs we love. And sometimes we do a lot of character ed assemblies. I know Mrs. Finley was talking about it to the 8th grade team, some of the things that they bring in. It's a really great opportunity at that point to teach them. We don't want to be reacting to behaviors. We want to be teaching them. And we often make the assumption that when they know better, they do better. And we can't assume that they know the right way to be able to conduct themselves in that area.
And I think along those same lines, didn't know that was on the website before. Might not still know if you're not in the room. So I think, Angelina, you're going to include some of those
Yes.
resources in your email tomorrow to the parents.
Correct.
Great.
Excellent. So I think next up is Alina.
So the year has started off really smoothly. Everybody's been very happy. I haven't heard really much any incidents at all, really, at least from the seniors. We're excited to be seniors, So at the beginning of the year, we had the senior sunrise. Everybody was really excited for that. Everybody who attended. We had a food truck come by and we had some nice breakfast. A lot of people were happy about that. It was very good. Everyone's excited about Spirit Week, which is going to be soon coming up as we get some holidays and Halloween. Everyone loves Halloween, so we're excited for Halloween. Everyone's been talking about the open house that just happened. That was exciting because the NHS students were excited to have something to get their hours going, Everyone has been excited about homecoming because it's kind of like our last year, you know, we want to make the most of our last, you know, moments, not moments together, but, you know, moments as a senior class, as a class together. So.
Do you want to talk about the training that you saw yesterday in my office? School board training?
School. Oh, yes. Okay, sorry. Yesterday, there was 2 meetings from the education department. First was from the education department, and that was about the role, basically, of student representative, what we're doing, what can be expected of us. And really, it was about, like, the importance of sharing the experiences, being the outlet of sharing the experiences of our peers and really bringing their voices up. Because for some people, it can be really hard to step forward, speak to a teacher about what they want, what they need. And sharing the experience is about how do you fix, or how do you give everyone what they want? A good step towards that is hearing, like, their story, and us student representatives being able to give those stories is really important to solving problems.
So this is the first year that it was a requirement that all boards in New York State have a student representative. We've had one for, I think, 12 years, so this is nothing new to us. But the first half of the meeting was the Chancellor of Education, some of the regents, and some politicians that were really spending some time letting them know the importance of being civically engaged in governance, et cetera. And then the second half of it was the local BOCES and the student representatives locally talking about it. And I think, as Alina picked up, you know, if you're in a large school close to New York City, your role is a little bit different than if you're at Tamarack, where you know all your classmates and you've been around for a really long time. So just kind of talking about, you know, how do you make sure that you have a voice that's heard so that the voted adult board members get the sense of what the kids are feeling, so that the decisions that the adults are making and how it impacts you.
First of all, thank you. That's a great update. One thing maybe for future updates that you could consider is whether you're hearing any feedback on, you know, the cell phone policy.
Oh, she
Yes,
is.
I did want to bring that up,
Okay,
yes.
great.
So cell phone policy, obviously, a lot of people are a little upset about it. They're like, oh, I don't want to do this.
School?
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, you'd never guess. So it is something that we have to deal with. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. I have heard from people on my VOTEC bus, they're starting to see themselves using their phones a little less at home as well, because they're not on it all the time, you know. And I've heard from a lot of my teachers that they're starting to see people talking and interacting more. And like Miss Carol, the other day, she was telling me she saw people playing cards at the end of her class when there was nothing left to do, instead of just, you know, sitting on their phones. And then Mr. Olson brought up that it's like a crucial part of bonding to talk to people while you're in school, because, you know, you're growing up. You're gonna need those types of connections and those ability to make the connections without a phone in front of your face, you know.
Well, I know there's a parent in the audience who was just sharing with me her son is a freshman and his roommate didn't know how to talk, and he would just sit in his room. So it's something that, you know, the kids really need to work on and build those skills back up after this time.
Especially after COVID, yeah.
I will say this, I think we're gonna need to invest in more sanitary wipe things, because the kids were in the main office on the phone, like begging their parents to go home tonight, coughing all over the phone, like doing a real, and the secretary's like, it was hilarious. So I think that's different.
Anything else?
Well, at Questar, there's a lot of stuff going on. The culinary class is having a picnic. That's going to be very fun. But other than that, not much else, you know?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that was our most detailed student update in quite a while. Before we proceed with the agenda, for my own notes, I need to go back to 2.1, because I think I asked Kevin and Zach for a motion to approve the minutes, but I don't think I ever asked for approval. So all in favor of approving last meeting's minutes? All right, that's approved. So go to section 4. This is board discussion and reports. The mission and vision statement is up for adoption. We have reviewed it, so I do think we need to approve it. So we'll get a motion to put on the table for review. Danielle, Tina, I will just seek any other comments or changes, or if everyone is good to proceed. All right. Now I need a motion to adopt our vision and mission statement. Kevin, Janine, all in favor? All opposed? Nope. All right, good. All right, so those are adopted. Let's see. Angelina, I have a 4.3 student BOE representatives.
We've got her on there twice because she's so great.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I'm like, did something change?
Do you have any board reports?
Any board reports or committee updates that folks want to bring to the table? All right.
Danielle, did you want to speak to the meeting you sat in on for
Oh.
construction with me?
Well, we did have a facilities meeting in regards to the field, the turf field. And it was proposed to possibly lift the turf field or move forward. Oh, sorry. Or move forward with the current plan, and decided that we were gonna move forward with the current plan because it just, one, fiscally made sense to, it was move forward because it was gonna be, what were we thinking, like 300,000 plus to, one, raise the field 8 inches, we were looking at. 8 to 12 inches, and that was just to lift the field. That wasn't including adding additional steps and any aesthetics or anything to go around it. And it was going to also push the project back a little bit. But it really wasn't going to mitigate the problem at hand, which was the natural beaver dams that were going to be created. And the architects, at the end of the day, were already kind of solving the problem with the natural flooding that was going to occur with the original proposal. So this was just going to go above and beyond an extra security. It was just going to create an extra security plan in place, but again, wasn't going to protect us from the beavers. So I don't know really what the proposal at the end of the day was going to.
The thinking was, if we build the field up another foot, that would be just another
Layer
foot
of
water that we could
protection.
take. But I think what I would recommend that the board do is in another year after this project's done, you can put in an additional drain pipe. Probably, the pipe itself is probably only $10,000, and then obviously you pay for the work. But we could put yet another drain pipe adjacent to the field if we wanted to add yet another layer. My concern with building the field up, one, it would look weird. And two, the kids would have to take a step up onto the field, which means that they would have to take a step down if they were coming off the field, which made absolutely no sense to me.
And
So
also, the proposal was to work with the DEC, invest that money on a yearly basis to work with the natural, problems with the beavers, but.
So the big piece, in addition to a retention pond, is that if the retention pond fills up, the concern was that water from the dam would flow back towards the field because there was no other place for it to go. But they've actually put a valve in, so water can only go out and into the stream instead of back in. What we'll have to do as a district is have periodic maintenance to make sure that doesn't get stuck open somehow.
This was also for a 100-year natural disaster.
This would be like for Hurricane Irene, like something absolutely significant. So I'm glad we talked about it because I think it makes sense. You have to plan for the worst, but we do have some odd things that make our construction a little odd. The fact that we're on a swamp makes it a little odd.
But to reiterate, the architect's proposal already plans for this potential disaster already. So, and they were already putting additional protection on top of their original plan to protect us from that. So this is almost like a third layer of protection, so.
That's why there's really no urgency for it. I think if the district has the opportunity, maybe in a $100,000 project in the upcoming future, I don't think it'd be a bad thing. I think it would lead to longevity, but it's not going to impact its use at all over time. Ryan, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the board goals now, or?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was just looking for that. So we do have draft goals that we've put together. I think all the board members have received them, but I don't think we've actually had any discussion around them. Has everyone had a chance to read them yet? All right. So,
By way of background information, the board had a workshop this summer, and they created an activity where they talked about things that they would want to see to overall improve the vision and mission of our district. And what I was able to do is kind of put them together and then talk about some of the things that we could do. So for example, a variety of the board obviously want to elevate our academic excellence and increase equity in learning outcomes, right? Want to make sure that all kids have access to learning. I put some quantitative data to support that we can then work as a district, as a team towards.
so I treat these goals as kind of a first read. If people have comments now, obviously, please do share them. Otherwise, what we can do is read them again in advance of the next meeting, and then put them up for adoption. For those that have reviewed them, any comments in general?
No, it looks good.
Good. All right, we'll still give everyone one more month just to make sure there's nothing else. All right, so that brings us to section 5. Need a motion to put 5.1 and 5.2 on the table. Kevin, Danielle, Angelina, anything you want to share on these?
No, this is just the training that our principals go through, and Stephanie and I, to evaluate the administrators and to evaluate teachers. Hopefully this is changing soon. APPR has been in place since 2012, and this is just kind of a part of the law that we have to get annually trained and adopted by the board.
All right, I need a motion for approval. John, Janine, all in favor? All right, all opposed? All right, approved. All right, that brings us to section 6, which is our policy section. We're not going to move any of these for adoption tonight. It's actually our second read of the AI policy. The reason why I didn't want to put up for adoption is, as Kevin rightly pointed out, Janine had some changes, but more importantly, some discussion items.
Here's what I found.
That is not helpful.
That wouldn't happen in classroom.
Can I say I'm surprised it happened in this room? So Angelina, do you mind opening up the AI one just so we can kind of, always like public discussion is good. So we are looking at adopting an AI policy, which I think a number of districts have been doing. Janine, your first edit here made sense, just recognizing that no student should be disadvantaged by not using Gen AI, but also disproportionately benefit from using it. So I think that change in wording makes a lot of sense unless folks disagree, which I don't think they do. Janine, do you want to go over any of your additional comments for consideration, or?
Yeah, I was just looking for students and then for staff. So in that second bullet, students are responsible for the accuracy of their submitted work and must cite all sources, including any Gen AI tools used. And then I guess is it under the purview of this policy as to how each teacher implements that? Does like the policy need to go to that level, or is it up to the purview of the faculty to just say, this is how I want it done in my class, or is there a standardized way that you'll use it?
Cheating and academic dishonesty is already in the core policy. So I don't think you have to go too deep in terms of this. I think what you basically say is the kids have to be responsible for authentic work. And if they don't have authentic work or violate some norm that would constitute, not being their own work, then that would fall upon either the individual teacher's classroom policy and or if it goes to the level of the administrator.
Okay, so that was kind of like the following bullet that just goes by, you're supposed to cite, whenever you do use AI, you're just supposed to cite that you use
Yep.
AI. So I don't know if that needs to be in here or not in here, it doesn't matter. And then same thing, should content be referenced if used, right? I mean, I think moving into the world that we're moving into, where everyone's using AI, like referencing AI is going to be really important.
Yep.
That this was used. I mean, everyone is using it, so referencing that it was used, I think, is going to be an important skill that we all are adopting.
And, you know, this is just kind of some foundational pieces. We'll certainly work with our media specialists and our tech committee about the pieces and the parts. It'll be discussed at curriculum and assessment. And I also think this will be an ever-evolving policy as things go on over time. What I wanted to be really clear about it is I don't want our kids disadvantaged by saying, we're just not going to teach them about it, we're not going to talk about it, because I don't think that's realistic. I don't think that's fair. But I do want them to find themselves in a situation where they know what's right and how to use it appropriately so that they don't get themselves into trouble, especially when the stakes are very important.
Angeline, can I ask you to maybe just check with the other administrators and faculty if they would like us to put, you know, the references to making sure that you cite your source for AI in this policy, or whether or not you'd want to handle it somewhere else, just so we have that feedback. You could ask now since you're all in the room.
Former English teacher here, so I think it is important to note it. I do. And again, with the education, just teaching them how to use it responsibly. I mean, not throwing them out and saying, no, it's just don't use it. They need to know how to use it responsibly moving forward if we're preparing them for college and career readiness. Yes.
All right. So we'll include something on citing. Yep.
Right, maybe a suggestion is give them a month to the next meeting to read it and
Oh, yeah,
comment.
of course.
And-
Yep. Yep. You got a whole 30 days to think it
The thing
through.
is, this isn't a required policy. This is just, you know, for discussion, in conversation, and I would imagine that this will be evolving over time. This is really just a framework, and I think Janine's input was really great because I'm sure Siena as a university, I can't believe I said that, Siena University, is just progressive. They're just in a different place than we would be as a K-12 school. You know, elementary kids aren't thinking about it in the same way as the high school.
I think it's good to get the administrator's perspective, as Ryan does, because they're going to have to implement it. And,
Right.
you know.
Out of curiosity, are the students using it now?
I'm sure that they
I
are.
would be shocked if
Yeah,
they
imagine
were.
they're not.
So they're just using it and they're not citing. We're just assuming they are using it responsibly.
Although my guess is they have some pretty strong suspicion of who may be using it.
Well, even just like Grammarly is AI. So when you use Grammarly to correct your paper,
Right.
it's considered, and you adopt what Grammarly is telling you to do, you need to cite that you use Grammarly to address your paper.
Identify it and use.
I'm sorry?
You can also use AI, identify.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Uh,
So they're great tools, but as long as we're like you, Angelina said, we're saying these are great tools, but we just have to be able to use them responsibly.
Yeah, so, and I don't know the answer to this, but how do you know that AI is accurate? You know, I mean, well, and I think that's why this is kind of, has to be an evolving policy. I mean, you know, the Google AI, right? I mean, that tell, you know, when you Google something and now just the AI comes up. I mean, you know, I searched for something today that I then, you know, on AI, it told me one thing, and then I dug deeper and it turned out that was outdated information. So I just.
But that in itself is the lesson, right?
Yeah.
So in my mind, and again, I think we could all be here all night long kind of going down the rabbit hole, but I think that's where the instruction of not just blind adopting something, and that I'm hoping is where the learning is. So maybe that's the tool to get some information, but then to fact check it appropriately. And that's where I think like the media specialist and the classroom instruction is going to be critical.
Yep. All right, so we will, again, kind of like a second reading, give folks a chance to review. I encourage everyone to do so. If you have changes, make sure to submit them to the board. The policy committee will make those revisions, and then hopefully we'll move that to adoption at our next meeting. Two more policies that we did put up there for review. This is not, they are already adopted policies. There are no changes in these policies, but we did want everyone to review them. And, you know, if they're after reviewing, if there's some changes you would suggest, we can certainly look to make those. I think one of these is pretty much taken directly from the NYSBA, you know, NYSID policy book, which is 1030, is it 1034? No, 10, wait, that says 11:15. A636, there we go. Why is it? All right, whatever that number is. So this is the bullying policy. It does also address both interventions, but also all the types of bullying, which obviously we reviewed at the beginning of the meeting. Do you think it's just important for everyone to know this policy is on file? If you have questions about the policy, please, raise them. As you can tell, it's, sourced from a large number of legal cases and other educational requirements. It was last reviewed, I believe, in 2023. So again, do take a look at this. Trying to review our policies a little bit at a time, just make sure they're up to date and reflect the current world is critical. So please take a moment. Any comments about either of those policies at this point? All right. That brings us to section 7, motion to review 7.1 and 7.2. Zach, Danielle, Angelina, any comments here?
I'm just glad Ms. Fremont is here.
Let the notes show that. Need a motion to approve. Kevin, Danielle, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, passes. All right, that brings us to the superintendent's recommendations around personnel. So need a motion to put, let's see, 8.1 through, there's quite a few of these,
18.
8.18 on the table. Janine, Dina, Angelina, anything you want to comment on here?
There's nothing that stands out in particular, but I just will point out 8.2, in a district our size where we don't have a lot of layers, nor do we have a lot of administration, our teacher leaders play a vital role in doing some of the work. So this is an annual appointment for people that lead some particular programs. They're called program support leaders. And as you can see in the elementary school and in the secondary school, and then there's some K-12 ones to do some crossover in the special areas. But when Mrs. Honorado was talking earlier about a math program that we're adopting, the math program leader at the elementary school would be the one shepherding through that process. So that's kind of how we involve them. And then ultimately it goes to the curriculum and assessment for formal discussion and adoption. And as you know, we have Board of Education reps on the curriculum and assessment. So that actually came up at the PTSA meeting, talking about how curriculum kind of goes through a process. Certainly, teachers have the autonomy to teach things within the specialized content that's specific to them, but there are some norms in some special programs that we do use.
All right. Do you need a motion to approve 8.1 through 8.18? Danielle, Dina, all in favor? All right, passes. That brings us to section 9, superintendent's recommendations around business and finance. Need a motion for those. John, Danielle, Angelina, any comments here?
Just that we didn't have any financial reports this month. It's very odd how they come, but they come from our auditor. So sometimes we get a bunch and sometimes we don't have any, and they weren't prepared in time for this particular month. So we always have that as a standing item, but my suspicion is next month you'll see a handful of back months. Another thing to note for people in the audience, you'll notice that there was a bid for playground mulch. We have very specific thresholds of things that we actually have to go out to bid from or buy on state contract. And this would just be an example of how we go out to bid just to make sure that we're getting the best value. And in this particular case, we only received 2 bids, and you can see how we selected that bid out of the 2 bids. So those are all criteria that we need to take to make sure that we're getting an appropriately sourced, but that's good for the taxpayers to see as well. You're not just getting it from anybody.
Angelina, is there, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to acknowledge one donation.
That's just what I was gonna say.
Yeah, there is a parent donation in item 9.4. Mr. Matsuyama just reached out to me as the school year got going, and just wanted to make a donation to support our students in the elementary building. Just realizing that budget times are tough and there are kids in need in the district. So I just thought that was exceptionally kind and generous of him, so I did just want to acknowledge that item. Thank you.
The same thought, yeah. Obviously, the board and district appreciate that tremendously. All right, so I think we do need a motion to approve 9.1 through 9.4. Zach, Janine, all in favor? All opposed? No, passes. All right, public comment. Just a reminder for folks who are offering any comments tonight. First, obviously, you would have signed in with Maureen. Please, when you speak up, introduce yourself with your name and address. Do want to remind everyone there's no hurtful or defamatory remarks about individuals. Also want to point out something that I think the public may sometimes be confused about is that we may not respond. So we may be sitting there and you may be sharing some very critical information. Our lack of response is not cold-heartedness. It's just that we may want to discuss it later. And then please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And if someone else has already covered your topic, we do try to limit repetition. So with that, now listen, I went through all the intros last time and then there were no comments. So Maureen, do we have any comments?
Eric Olson.
Yes.
Really, I'm first?
You're the only one.
Oh. Hi, I'm standing, I'll stay standing. Eric Olson, I live at 36 Turf Drive, here for 25 years. Just a couple of quick comments, two. One is just because phones came up, I'll just give you the teacher perspective. It is far outrun what I thought we were going to experience. Unbelievably healthy. It's just a healthier. Here's the best example that I can give that I've seen so far. Like there's times I'm literally sitting at my desk in awe of, like, it hasn't been like this in 10 years, where kids are talking to each other, they're not staring at their phones. You know, I've been reading some articles recently that like it's good for your brain to be bored once in a while because it becomes more creative and searches for things. And like you can see kids being bored in a sense and just dealing with things in a little bit different way. So I'm really happy about that. And so best example I have is this. So on September 11th, I show a film about September 11th. And it's kind of a tribute to a lot of things. But there's been times in the past that I'll like look at the students during this 9/11 tribute and I'll see like kids on their phones. It just bothered me. It always irked me that like, you can't put your phone down for this, right? So maybe 3 or 4, and there was no one, like not a single phone. And I will tell you this, I have not seen a single phone, not one since the first day of school. So we're lucky to, I can't believe that I'm saying that. I figured I'd have at least a couple of little runs. Not a single one. I know some people have run into a few things, but I think it's going swimmingly. So, and the second thing I just want to say, totally different topic, is you were talking about AI. And things kind of went quickly there. I didn't hear everything. So my guess is this is probably part of your plan. But I mean, this is a major teacher conversation right now, right? There's educators talking about this every single day, lunch, what you're doing. I will tell you that people are split. There are some people like myself that say embrace it, go down the road, we can't fight it, it's happening. We're, either get on board or get run over kind of thing. And there's some people that are like, no, we can't allow this to happen. Kids can't have AI thinking for them, a whole bunch of things. So I just want to make sure, and I think you've thought of this, but I think you really have to get a lot of teacher input here. The worst thing would be like if a school board ever came in and just said like, all right, and I don't even know what that policy is. Like I haven't read it. It'll be on my menu tomorrow to read it. I don't know how deep it runs. I don't know what exactly it all is dealing with. But if you're talking about an AI policy, talking about teachers about this, you have to have their input, because some teachers would get mad, I think, if a school board just went like, this is happening, and they'd be like, whoa, how come nobody talked to me? So, and I think I heard the words curriculum and assessment council, and that's good. But I think, well, there's a lot of teachers that are outside of just that committee that feel really passionate about this, and it might even be messy. But I think the messiness at least will allow people to feel heard, and I think that you'll get a lot of important input that way too. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Angelina, maybe we can do a special meeting of the policy committee.
Sure.
And invite, anyone that wants to come to talk about it. Maureen, I think we have a second comment.
Okay.
There we go.
Hi, I'm Logan Austin, 7872. I want to make a comment on the AI policy. Now, coming from a student, I've seen other students use AI in like assignments and like other projects, and I've seen them get away with it, of course. And I know it's been thrown around that they want to like enforce it or like not be used in schools, but have like a little enforced. But in my opinion, like I think that even though it's a worldwide phenomenon, I don't think it should be in schools in general. But hey, that's all I got.
That's great. Teachers, students, parents, we'll have a fun meeting. Get everyone speaking up.
Hey, if
on
I
it.
could just inject after the fact, because I know Mrs. Cascown said something about, like, you know, what's happening if it's used now, and, you know, she said, like, things are cited. I'll be honest with you, for the last 2 years, I don't give any at-home writing assignments. And everything's done in class now. It takes up more class time, but it's gotten to the point where, like, I honestly don't know how to wrestle with this thing. I think this thing is great. I mean, it's unbelievable on a lot of levels. It's scary. I feel like I think about Terminator all the time, but like, but I mean, it's there, but I can't do an at-home writing assignment anymore. It's too time consuming for me to try and chase that.
Let our notes reflect that Mr. Olson is worried about Skynet. All right, Maureen, any other? All right, so I do need a motion to adjourn. Kevin, Danielle, all in favor? All right, thank you.
Can I just see facility committee quickly? Whoever's on facility committee?
That means we know this one, so-
That was That makes it easy, actually.